It's been a rough or an interesting couple of episodes for Reagan. Seeing this character that usually embodies confidence be physically anxious and being unable to talk himself out of some situation that he would usually have absolutely no issue talking himself out of was just so weird. If you recall, last episode I mentioned how Reagan's biggest mistake during episode 6 was completely rejecting the ideas of Mob now having both friends and a personal life. Because rejecting these possibilities flat out is essentially Reagan rejecting the possibility of Mob changing. This episode, though, was strictly about Reagan coming to the realization that he fucked up. That in his own way, he's been protecting Mob, but by doing that has also kept him caged, kept him from changing. I mean, after defeating Mogami, the first thing Reagan suggests Mob does is stay at spirits and such forever in order for fame and money to not get into his head. You see, this time it's Reagan's turn to grow up. He has to acknowledge the fact that Mob is no longer the same helpless boy in desperate need of protection. Mob no longer needs Reagan to protect him from people like he did at the beginning of the series. At this point, what Mob needs of Reagan the most is encouragement. Mob, since the beginning of the season, has slowly taken his feelings into consideration more and more. Mob is going to do more of what Mob wants to do and more of what Mob feels is correct. And because this is Mob's first time truly expressing himself, I have the feeling that he'll mess up. Mob might definitely stumble along the way, but that's when the people he cares for the most, like Ritsu, the Body Improvement Club, Hanazawa, and of course Reagan, will be there to support him, just like Mob supported Reagan this episode. It's funny to think that Mob just recently came to the realization that he can inspire others to change when he's been doing it ever since he was a child. 3 years it's been since Reagan met that child, and I think Reagan, somewhere along the way in those 3+ years with Mob, forgot what he taught him. And that makes sense, right? Those words of wisdom that Reagan uttered when he first met Mob were just empty words. To Reagan, they didn't hold much significance or meaning, as he just said them in order to get Mob to go home. But to Mob, they meant the world. Mob goes into spirits and such, hoping to find somebody to help him control his powers. But instead, he meets someone who tells him that, yeah, having powers or being able to run really fast is really cool, but those traits shouldn't define a person. That trait shouldn't and doesn't define you. Reagan tells Mob that he should strive for more and continue living positively while trying to become a kind, good person. Mob never really cared if Reagan was a psychic or not, because he was taught that those traits don't define a person. Mob could have called Reagan so many things at the end of the episode. He could have called him a failure, a scammer, a con artist, or a disappointment, and they would have all in some way been the truth. Which is why I think Reagan clutches his fist during this scene. He was preparing for an attack. He was completely powerless and awaiting the final blow, if you will. Reagan was preparing to finally, and rightfully so, I think, be abandoned by the very person who brought the color back into his life. But once again, con artist or not, disappointment or not, that wasn't what Mob was taught to place value on. Mob was taught to place value in one's kindness, in whether they're a good person or not. And luckily enough, while he may not always be right, what Reagan is one of the best, genuinely good people out there. Assuming this arc is over, I have to say it's one of my favorites, especially when taken into account with the previous one. Mob, in his own arc, amongst other things, learned to appreciate the people in his life more for helping him to continue being this kind, wholesome person. And Reagan, in his own arc, learned to value one of the things that's kept him going. Reagan says that he wants to become somebody, though that's very open to interpretation. Reagan was somebody for a second. He was Reagan, the master psychic, but I don't think that's the somebody Reagan wants to be. Reagan, though he might convince himself otherwise, doesn't want to be this somebody in the public eye. I think Reagan wants to be somebody in somebody's life. Look at it this way, while most of the time he's not providing the service he claims to be providing, he is always doing what he thinks is best for his customer. He improves his customers' lives, very briefly making him somebody in it. And that's exactly what he is in Mob's life. Somebody. Somebody very important. But hey, these are my thoughts, and I'm curious to read yours. If you're an anime only, leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on this Reagan arc and the development Reagan went through. And if you're a manga reader, let me know how you felt Bones adapted this episode, and most importantly, start a discussion. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my analysis on this episode. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, it helps the channel out a lot. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also to hit that notification bell. That way, you don't miss a video and can keep on watching Mob Psycho 100 and many other series with me. By the way, thank you all for 200 subscribers. We hit 100 sometime late December, and it's just crazy to see that number double in a little under 2 months. I hope y'all stick around, and I hope I can keep on creating content both you and I are happy with. And with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.